the fake cheap law. Where are my sheets, Michael? This isn't it. This isn't it. Oh, Candace Owens, we're going to talk about karma today. Hey, Michael, did you go visit her? No, I don't like this contract. This contract is done, finished. Devil has it now. Where are my notes, Michael? Follow the yellow brick, fake, cheap, lock, karma. And the day my shaman path began at 35 years old. Welcome to the channel. This is Heather Ann Ferri, and we're sending another message out to Candace Owens because we're looking for the judge, we're looking for the prosecutor, we're looking for the witness. Here we go. Let's the games begin. But Michael, is Michael gone? Michael messed up my whole table today. These aren't the notes. Where is Michael? Charlie. Confess. Where did he go? I don't care if Mr. Rogers told you it's a secret. Confess, it's me. Too many secrets in my angel house today. There's a lot going on here, but today we have very important information. Settle back. More to the mystery man. More to the puzzle of my life. Okay, here we go. Focus in. Need some magic water. Need some magic water. Remember when Trump did that? Anyway, fake cheap law. I got a really juicy story for you. It started at 35 years old. Karma. Karma. And my day, the day my shaman path began, it began at age 35. So let's go through the facts, people. Here we go. When people think karma isn't real, because let's face it, people will be getting off for too long. That's why we had a meeting with the devil and he agreed to the 7 laws that are coming onto Mother Earth. I kind of feel like Gilda Radner right now with her one-woman show. Anyway, yeah, so they started taking shortcuts because they thought they could, but then they override it and it just got out of control. And that's when like some of the old souls came in. So if you've been like beaten down, chosen ones, like psychic attack, groups attacking you, this is your day to come back. The light beings get back on stage. They get their money back. We build the right blueprints. We get the society upgraded. Bye-bye, psychopaths. Bye-bye, psychopaths. You can either clean up your debt today or go to another planet. Bye-bye, psychopaths. Bye-bye. Feels like a tap dance, but it is. I think we need Savion Glover, calling in Savion Glover. We need a juicy conversation about what was it like. I mean, I got a little experience with Jimmy Sly, but you got to travel with him. Did you play cards with him? I know the guys play cards. I would have played cards. You know, one of the last meetings I had with my dad was Christmas Eve. I remember it clearly. We were at my brother's house. And I actually brought my magic water with me. I was drinking it. We had 2 tables of cards playing. I got really giddy and high. And my dad literally looked over and said, "You're not even drinking alcohol." And I was like, I got my magic water here. I do not need that substance that dumbs down the brain. I do not need to numb my frontal cortex with a little marijuana. I remember every detail of every life of all my ancestors because I've been doing the right magic tools, and it is called magic water. Anyway, my dad was shocked. The other thing was, when he left, he whispered to my mom, "You know what? She's a really good card player." Anyway, I don't know why I came in. I have curly hair and it gets in the way. I love my hair. I really do love my hair, but let's see if that can work out. All right, here we go. So yeah, they thought they could take shortcuts, and they have been taking shortcuts, but the game is over. So the shady deals, yeah, that's what Candace Owens is pulling out. They think no one is watching because they are so numb. They've been doing this for so long. They don't think any consequences. They're so entitled. And I know that from the last cockroach I had to deal with. So unbelievably entitled. And everybody that he paid off to spell me, what are you doing? Do you want to stay here? Are you doing damage to your bloodline, to your people you love? Don't you love yourself enough to know that healing generational trauma takes what? It takes PTSD brain protocol. It takes ADHD, a brain protocol. Childhood trauma, brain protocol. You gotta rewire in a holier time. Anyway, they think nobody's watching. They believe, by the way, with this whole spelling thing, when we get into, the first time I heard the word shaman, I was 35 years old. So don't think all these fancy smancy people that are on these stages know more than you, even if you come from a blue collar home. You might actually know a lot more about integrity, ethics, and being a good human being. So don't be afraid. Come to my workshops, do my events. You probably have more light, more spirituality, more intuition than all the show. We're putting on a show online. We don't know anybody else, but oh, we're going to project. We're going to react. We're going to project. We're going to react. I don't know my past life timelines, and I'm playing a show because I love the attention. I love the money. I love the power of thinking I'm king and queen. Don't be fooled anymore, people. Oh man, don't be fooled. So this is the thing is I never heard the word till I'm 35, and I'm going to tell you some real life stories. But the truth is it was always inside of me. It was just beaten down lifetime after lifetime by these parasites, by these predators, by these slave owners who disguise themselves so well. And we were trained to pay them, to follow them all day long, and to believe them. And that's why I'm so different, because I actually require you to do the work and heal in the healing toolkits that I provide, and they will empower you. And let's just face it, secret here, devil, he didn't want that. Devil doesn't like two things, water. You might think, well, there's so many water options in the grocery store. Exactly right. Oh, there are so many options for you. We'll just forget about healing waters that exist. We'll just forget about the PubMed's research on electrolytes reduced water. We'll have people talking about higher conscious water. I'll pray while everybody's drinking forever chemicals and it's a threat to the United States, but I'll keep praying over this because I'm higher conscious. I'm a slave owner and I'm not really going to admit that or pay my debts, but you can drink the forever chemicals. I don't really care because aren't I great? And we're going to pray higher consciousness. You know what? I do believe that it can exist in time, but I don't think the people who are preaching it are the people that can do that. And I think if you really cared about your community, you would have some common sense. We don't have any spiritual healers out here. And if you are one, please put a comment in below. Let me know who you are. Let me know you're preaching the same things so we can combine. Because what I've been seeing is I've been seeing a lot of fakeism. Fake masks, people that don't know their own stuff, people that aren't upgrading. I don't have one tool. I don't have two tools. I have a lot of tools in my toolkit that I have seen that work. I don't pretend they work in my own little show here with my own little big ego. I actually had people do blood work and things were reversed. I actually had people say, oh my God, I came back into my marriage. Oh my God, I reconciled. Like, what are you doing? Meow. Okay, So they believe they can partner with the darkness and walk away clean. It's not possible. It's going to be so black and white, so obvious in the next year who's doing the work and who's not. It's going to drastically change, and things are going to flip without people even knowing it. And it's going to just be like, bam, some people that were here, immediately here in a day. Some people, it's just going to be like, bam, no warning. That's why you have to do that meditation work, that breath work every day. You know, when I talk about the Indian culture, and it's really interesting because my community, this area has a lot of Indian people, and the big feedback is low divorce rate, very calm people. You never see them on the news fighting. They do a lot of pranayama breath work on a regular basis. There are patterns when we see in certain cultures. They treat me with the utmost respect. It is very fascinating. It's just like they know. They know I'm light. And it's like the way they speak to me, their tone of voice. It is just, and they're like, I actually, where do you teach? I mean, I don't really teach locally at this point, but it was like, they're just like on it. They can see the light and they're reacting in a positive way to it. So 35. Well, today I want to tell you a story about integrity. And I want to talk to you about lawyers. And what happens when people think they're invisible? Yeah. I think people never thought the Epstein files would come out. I think a lot of people never thought any of that would come out. And that's what made the predator more, we fed the monster over and over and over and over again. But like I said in my last video with Candace Owens, is I was like, look at the stats, look at the reality. If you're really being honest with yourself, things are getting worse. And I'm not a pessimist, but I'm a realist. And so, you know, if people care about specifically America, you're going to need to actually throw out some contracts and bring in some new ones. So with 35, that's when it started. My video with the tap, spoken word, and dance, I realized there was so much going on with my grandmother. Of course, she was a part of this. I'm 53 now. We've got 8 and 8. And 88, which is where I'm at right now, if you look up that number in the angel realm, abundance, prosperity, manifestation, and karma returning in physical form. And the only thing in my chart, and this warlock knew this. Oh, did this warlock know this? So everybody that supported this person, you've got negative karma to clean up. You've got consequences to really do some hardcore shadowing. Because this person knew what they were doing from day one. And they'll play victim all day long. But the thing is that with the physical, that was the only barrier I had. Physical people showing up, physical people giving me money as donations and gifts, funding me. Do you know how many GoFunds I saw in the last year of things that weren't even like, I was sick. If you don't see the rashes on my Facebook page and the swelling, this person watched this and loved every minute of it. They're sick. They're slave owner psychology. Anybody that cared about me would have gotten money to the door, bills paid. That's what you do when you love somebody. It's not innate. You show up and you figure it out. As soon as my mother was moved and when my dad died to the other house, I told my brother, she is not okay. You better check the checking account. You better check the numbers. You better check what she's doing because she's on sugar 24/7. Karma, what comes around goes around. What you give out comes back. A lot of people have been giving out false teachings, false arrogance, false ego, and getting paid really well with a lot of followers. It's truth. What happened at 35 years old? Well, let me go through my notes. I was teaching around yoga and meditation. I was known as the yogi. I was invited to the Pittsburgh University, and I can't remember what building we were in, for a shaman event, which I knew nothing really about, on water. And I had zero training on shamanism, zero training on water or medicine, but I had something. I had intuition, which is what you need to hear if you found this. Because when I go to my community, when I talk to construction workers and plumbers and nurses and the mother, you're relying too much on the screen. Meditate, learn how to learn the psychology, do the free playlists of breath work on my channel, empower yourself. Those two courses would have been college courses. They're the beginning stages of the brain protocol work, which is a game changer, not just in rewiring, intuitiveness, telepathicness, dealing with psychic attacks, but it's also in creating a holier person within inside of you to get your own database when you are ready. Sometimes giving somebody too much information psychically when they're not ready can damage them more. This is why the one medium I do respect, John Edwards, who's been around the block, always says in his private consultations, I will call a loved one and I will give you information, but he usually refers to them to go do trauma work, therapy work, energy work. It's not a one-shot deal. Eventually, you need to be your own psychic and be able to know your own angels and to know your own past life information. If this whole spiritual community had really had that toolkit, they would have known from day one about the 3 cockroaches. We all have cockroaches in our life. Cockroaches is an interesting term because in the yogic world, they say if you don't do enough karmic damage, you come back in the next life as a cockroach, which these men could. I don't know. I'm not going into their stuff because I don't really care about it. I care about myself, my own life, and manifesting the things that make me happy. But I do know that people are overdue, and if they don't start paying the bill, they're going to other planets. That is happening, and they will not get back on right away. They don't get back on that train right away. Once you're there, you're going to have to go through a lot. Maybe you're going to have to go through what you've put other people through. It has to balance out. There is no escaping that. And because it's gotten way out of balance for too long, well, that's why we're at this point. So if you're a victim or a survivor, do your healing generational work. It's going to pay off this time. It's really going to pay off big time for you and your future and your loved ones. So I know it's not easy, but I'm an expert. Follow me. I'll get you there a lot faster. And the business team that's coming forward, I think there's business partners that will come forward that will create systems that can make that work a lot easier and faster. I mean, you can't go too fast because when trauma releases, you have to relax and take a break. I mean, you can't pull it all. I couldn't pull it all out at once. The human body can't handle that. The human brain can't handle that. That's why it is a process. But your lifestyle changes, and that's where the healing homes come in, which I know, by the way, I know that Jim Brewer's wife would be on with that because I have a feeling that me and her are a little bit more alike. Even though when I watch Jim Brewer, I am just so grateful because there's something about him. It's a soul contact. Obviously, his dad's on the other side with Harriet Tubman. They're like this. He was called in at the end to clean all this up and then start a defensive line for anything. But I just know, he just makes me laugh so hard. It's just like he brings out that great side. And the animals, oh my gosh, the animals. I mean, he really is the donkey. He has always been, and the donkey is my dad. So is he going to play my dad in the movie series? I don't know. You know, this is what my creative team, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people they're talking about. Oh, this person, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that person. And it's fun. You know, it's kind of like that's the creative kids. Like, oh, I wonder how that person played. Da, da, da. Anyway, so so it was really my intuition that scoped out this whole scene that I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. And it was from growing up with my mom. After growing up with my mom, I can read auric fields, I can read spiritual bypass. So I kind of knew. And so this is what kind of like I felt like as I was sitting in the chair. I'm
Okay. Costume, people, costume. Let's see how we can do this. It's time. Let's see what we gotta put this on just to help you understand how these characters form. I think we're getting there. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, here we go. Yeah, so they're on stage. I'm sitting in the audience, and all of a sudden, let me put this mic here. Just having a little sound issues. That's why I had to start. So like all of a sudden I see these women, they're in these dresses. They're beautiful women, you know, I just, there's just something that just didn't add up right. And all of a sudden they're like, they're chanting and they're like, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm like, is this a show? Because we put on a lot of shows growing up as kids, me and my brother in the basement. And, you know, I was just like, God, something doesn't feel right. And what about this? Like, you're shaman people? I thought shamans were like, you know, healing water, land, get rid of the glyphosate, get rid of the chemicals. This is corporation. These are big money deals. These are people that own everything. They stole the water from the natives. Why aren't we like teaching that? Why aren't we talking about that? What's going on? I was confused. I mean, if there's one thing I learned from growing up with my mom, I know a good show. I know what's fake and what's real. And something didn't add up right. And I was just like, whatever. But there was a gentleman, I remember him sitting right in front of me on the left side, feminine side, turns around, he's like, hey, hi, how you doing? I'm so-and-so. Oh, hi, my wife's on stage. Oh, nice. He's like, you know, what do you do? And I was like, well, you know, I'm a yoga meditation teacher, blah, blah. He's like, oh, well, you know, here's my card. He was like, I work for this, it's like an MLM, you know, you get cheaper law services for, you know, for the everyday person. And I was like, okay, great. Put it in my pocket, didn't think too much about it. Obviously, I got home, I looked it up, and I was like, okay. Now you have to understand, in my trauma practice, I did have actually like 4 or 5 lawyers hire me doing meditation work, stress reduction, and they were great. Like I have really good luck with lawyers. And some of them, you know, they would put 5 or 10% of their business aside for lower income and work pro bono or work for free in general, just helping them. I know this for a fact. And so that leads me into a story that I've never shared with anybody. And it deals with when I came back at 30, you know, it's 35 years old. I'm in Pittsburgh, you know, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm still in show business. I did a one-woman show, Civic Light Opera, and I'm figuring out, you know, the yoga Pilates, how am I going to heal trauma, weird stuff with my mom, you know, stuff going on. And I was lost, you know, and I'm thinking, I just want to be normal. Like, I just want to be normal. So I applied for a PNC bank manager job. And I went in with my theater resume. Now I knew, I didn't have any banking or college education in management. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a little rough. I went in, everybody's like large waiting room, a lot of people with suitcases and very important, and stuff. And I was just like, well, we'll see what happens. And to me, it was kind of like a game. I was like, well, I went in, you had to take 2 tests. I was never good at school, which I think is a compliment now. But you had to take a math test, did really well. You had to take a psychology test, did really well. A lot of people were deleted, and it was kind of like an audition. Oh, just a small group left. Got my theater resume, and I sat there and I was like, I will convince them that I am the best candidate for PNC management, even though I have nothing on my resume and no experience. So I walked in, I sat down, and I did just that. I can't tell you what I said or what I did, but I got the job. Walked down to the parking lot. First person I called was my mom, because I thought she was like, finally, she gets a normal job. I'll be normal. I call and I tell her how I got this position. I'm thinking, health insurance, regular job, not, I'm normal now. And she actually, every now and then, the crazy cat comes out with something and you're like, where did that come from? She said, what? Oh, what did you do? I was like, well, I applied. I got a manager job. Aren't you happy? I mean, I got a regular job. And she's like, that's not you. That is not what you should be doing. Who is this person? Got off the phone. A day later, I called back. I said, you know what? I'm not going to take that job, but thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Another offer has come. I didn't have another job offer. Never thought about being normal again. Okay, so lawyers, they're important. Coming from the background that I came, I had trust issues. I mean, it's pretty simple. So I talk about Mystery Man in Candace Owens' Dark Waters. I talk about Mystery Man in my book, Transcending Victim to Goddess, Part 1. Part 2 is juicy. You got to get Part 1 before Part 2. And I started sending clients to his law firm. And partly it was because they needed a lawyer, but it was partly because I kind of wanted to investigate him without him knowing it. That was the back end of me seeing, is this really a good guy behind? It's like I've been on showbiz. I've seen people on stages. I see them get off stages. I've seen people in these hundreds, millions podcasts, and then you get to a workshop or you get to an event at Costa Rica and you hear them, behind closed doors after hours fighting or verbally abusing or doing stuff. And you're like, it's not to judge, but it's just to assess. I'm not saying we have to be perfect, but we should probably be more transparent then about the process. So I've just kind of like analyzed, and I'm not looking for certain perfection. There's a lot of criminal we've seen in the Epstein files. There's a lot more coming out. Well, there's a lot more that will never come out, right? That never got caught. So we've had this predatorial system of economics and business. But anyway, so the first client that I sent to the lawyer is, let me get my notes here. She was calling him for advice about possibly having to divorce somebody that she loved, but there was a lot of conflict and she was concerned. And he ended up doing a free pro bono call for her because he knew me, which she told me later, and she was really grateful. And he went through like what she needs to sort of assess in the state of PA. And this wasn't necessarily his lane, but he was helping her and this and that. And then she told me, because he would call me Miss Ferri, very Miss Ferri. Whenever I'd see him after that, when I saw him at the pizza shop, hi, Miss Ferri, how are you? Not looking so good right now, but Miss Ferri. And so she said, after the conversation, then he piped in with a question. He said, well, so did Miss Ferri say anything about me, you know? And she said, well, she said you were the best lawyer in town, that you're a good soul, and that's why I called. And he said, well, like, I think she said once I was his her spirit guide or spirit animal. Spirit animal. And she's like, uh, she's blue card. I don't know anything about spirit animals. But she did say you were a good soul. And then she hung up and she told me, and I was laughing. I didn't tell her this story, but I was like, oh my God, when I first met him, I was joking. I was like, I was thinking of getting a dog, but I had an apartment complex and you can't get dogs. I love dogs, even though I'm cat. Cats love me, and I don't want a cat in my house. I'm a dog lover, but anyway, and I said to him, I said, I can't get a dog because you'll be jealous because of all the attention. And so I'll give you the attention. You can be my Sheltie dog. And he smiled. Unconditional love. And so I remember that. And then this jumps into when my father passes away and things are a mess. I had food here in my little townhome. It's the second time my mom came into this house, and there was lots of food, and some of the family members were here. My mom was out of it, as that's understandable. It was really stressful. And she's walking around my house, and the only two things she kept saying over and over again, like a tape recorder, is your house is so clean. It's so clean. How do you, it's just a clean house, and where's the dog? I mean, I think you need a dog in this house. She come out of the bathroom, clean bathroom, but where's the dog? I mean, where's the dog? You need the dog in the house. I mean, over and over again. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, I know they put her on meds, and I know she's having a lot of sugar right now, and she's obsessed OCD with the cleaning and the dog. We're just going to let it go. We're just going to let it bypass right now. Not knowing that she was probably thinking about Dorothy wanting to get her dog back, unconditional love, coming back home. But we won't go, I can go in that right now. But back then I was like, okay. So client number 2 had to really sit down with this lawyer, go to his law firm and discuss family issues. She had some meetings. She was hiring him. And I remember talking, and I was trying to find something. I was trying to give me the juice. Give me something bad. There's got to be something wrong with this guy, so I can't trust him, because my heart when I first saw him was like, and she was just like, he's intense. She was like, he is really, really wicked, smart, intense. And she's like, honestly, I don't really like lawyers, which then reminded me of my father growing up, because of that battle between his parents and his mom losing her business because it was in a lawsuit. I think my dad had a bad taste with lawyers, and so maybe that was some of that distrust. But she was like, I don't really like lawyers, but I like him. Like, I mean, you got to trust him. He's got a dog in the office. And I'm like, he's got a dog? Yeah, he's got this dog sitting in the office all day. And I was like, wow. And she's like, you just kind of have to. And then everyone said, he'd be kind of a good match for you. And I was like, and she said, you heal victims, he protects them. Powerful statement, right? You heal victims and he protects them. So let's get back to that little shady guy in the shaman event with the business card. Recently, I've been on a lot of podcasts, and you can locate them on my Facebook page or some. Now, I don't post all of them because I'm doing a lot of them. On my website at Heather Ann Ferri, there is a podcast page if you want to start to tune in. Some of them recently are very different. I'm going back to the period of 35 to 42 years old because I'm detached from it now. I've had enough time away from it that I can pick it apart to help the beginner, to help you skip steps, to help understand intricately things. And so at 42 years old, my first book, Victim to Victory, was out. I was in Pittsburgh lecturing on it. And at the end, this woman came up and hired me for private coaching. As I sat down with her in my studio office, I realized she was the shaman woman on stage. married to the man that gave me the card. Is that a coincidence? Or is that a setup? Because I'm an ancient soul with contracts to fulfill in this life for humanity. So not everybody is in that lane. Doesn't mean that you're not important. You're just as important. But it makes you start to understand the power of meditation work and the power of why I keep reinforcing to go onto the free playlists and do them to prepare for the brain work. Actually, if everybody did it, even the people who think they're healed, there would be massive upgrades. So anyway, as I sat with her, I want to really kind of be very clear. I always kind of kept the books clear. I had liability forms, health forms. I used to have personality disorder question lists. Then I started to tighten it up. During COVID, I had a few clients that signed a form to permit me to film. The film would be in the back corner, nobody would pay attention. For hours and hours and hours. I would pick apart and watch it. They were slave owners. I wanted to do a documentary. I wanted redemption. Never happened for a lot of reasons, but it was an incredible teaching tool. Somebody like, a great actor would understand that process of becoming mastery. Mastery at studying auric fields, seeing entities, seeing when the entity comes out in certain conversations, certain words. That's what that training did. And I talk about agent confusion in book 2 and book 3. And this is the guy I show in Dark Waters video, Candace Owens. So watch that video. And I actually do think he'll reincarnate because I think he did pay off enough karmic debt. He didn't really do it in finances, but he did it in actions. I know he did something positive when we parted, and he was a traitor when he parted, but I also knew he had to play that role to prepare me for the next step. He does have to do a lot more cleanup, but I do think he will come back and reincarnate the more I think about it, because yeah, there's just a lot more psychological stuff that has to be done. It's hard to face this stuff, man. When you sell your soul and you do horrific crimes against humanity, which he did, he definitely did. And he admitted that, and he cried and he shook, and he shared moments in the church where they teach that. And so I learned a lot from him. And I have to say, when I was closing this chapter, because it was really hardcore psychic attack last year, I was really grateful for agent confusion. In some senses, I thanked him because I said, look, I would have never been able to survive this last, I call it spiritual warfare, without you. And so thank you. So I want to say that in the sense that I was always protective when people confessed or shared information. I want to share that when I really spent time with this, because this woman was a client for a short amount of time, I'm sharing this to help humanity understand karmic accountability. So I'm sitting there with her. Her throat is on fire. She's extremely rigid, overworked out, lots of muscle, very tight, OCD, lots of mental illness in the family. And she is the head shaman, people from Peru, Mayhem. She does trips all over the world. She's she's standing on the stages. Pittsburgh was a big thing for a few years in the paper about the healing waters at the Point. They said there was a 4th healing water at the 3 Rivers, which is incorrect. Eventually that was proven incorrect, but all these people came down doing their rituals. Now, I don't think these people are bad people. I always just question why they came, because they were actually completely wrong, which I'm going to talk about at the end of this video. And I have to ask them, I was born in the state of PA for a reason. I know the ancient history of this land, and it's being destroyed right now, which is awful. But why? Are you so traumatized that you had the misinformation? Was it because of drinking all the plastic, which we know now dementia clients have 10% more microplastic in their brain? What is it? Because It's a big deal because what happened was the blue collar people started to listen to them. Oh, I mean, there's nothing wrong with praying over your food and water and drinking it. But at the same time, if the victims have so much trauma that causes acidity and causes cancers, we know that for a fact, they need a medical grade water to upgrade to detox all this stuff. But if the slave owners are always on the stages saying, oh, just pray over it, it's all fine, and then everybody's dead. And I can honestly say that a lot of people that were blue card that went, they're gone. Like there's a woman, 60 years old, who was extremely successful in sales. And I know for a fact, you shower under this stuff. So you're influencing people. And that's why I'm calling out the spiritual people on platforms. If you don't know your background a little bit more, and if you're not accountable for your slave ownership, maybe you don't know what victims and survivors need as tools. Maybe you need to set aside your ego a little bit more. Because yeah, I may have the healing abilities to heal that water and drink it and give it to you. But I got to get you to be able to do it on your own. And I got to get the foundation of Mother Earth clean again. And we don't do that through denial. We don't do that through, oh, it's not really in a plastic bottle. It's not, there's no chemicals in there. Because the stats show what there is. Anna, Jesus's grandmother, lived over 600 years. Jesus lived over 400 years. These are just, people lived a lot longer and they didn't have diseases. So I'm not impressed. So she's sitting there and I gave her homework, which is OCD brain protocol. She didn't do any of it when she came back the next week. Very common for a slave owner. Not for some of them that worked full-time with me. They worked through some blocks. There were a few that did work through some blocks. But in general, there were a lot of slave owners I worked with that they can't do brain work at all. It's like that 5-year-old, like, I need the toy right away. Just give me the toy right away. I just need the quick fix right away. I just can't. I got to suck somebody else. I got to blame somebody else. It's not me. It's not me. It's them. It's them. It's them. But I can't sit still. It's just like a child throwing a tantrum. I mean, I worked with children that throw tantrums. You know what I mean? So that's kind of that level. And that's the concern right now, is that if they're not willing to do work and they're misbehaving, they either got to come back as a cockroach or they got to go to another planet and live there for a good amount of lives. So anyway, I didn't like her energy. She planted some seeds that are in my book that lead to other things. So she's a part of the slave ownership groups and tribes. And then I sat there going, this woman's lying. Is she going to tell me the truth or are we going to just part? And she confessed. So that's what I'm going to share today. I don't usually share without people's permission. But I do feel that it's important for people to know, and you're never going to know who she is. And I'm never going to say her name. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I really am not. I've handed that over. And if she sees this video, maybe she'll take action and do the right thing to help heal her lineage, because you're not healing it the way you're doing it. She basically, her husband that worked for that cheaper version of law, frauded out millions of people in this particular senior home. And now I'm not saying that MLM, everybody's bad. I did come across other bad people within that MLM. I think we need higher conscious lawyers, and the type of lawyer like Dark Waters is important, and they need to be paid. Just like healers need to be paid when they're good. They need to be paid. It is what it is. So, that's a decision you have to make. When we come down to what's going on and some of these big things, we need good lawyers. So anyway, he frauded out millions and got caught. And so him and this woman, his wife, made the decision, instead of giving the money back and going to jail, that she had been a nurse, that they were going to do medical whatever, and he was going to die. And they made that decision. He died. So nobody knew about what happened. Now, Candace Owens is giving us so many examples of so many webs of how this works with shady people covering up with religion. I'm saying my lane is shamanism, yogis, vegan health movement, and I'm all these things, but I'm not in any of those tribes. So, and maybe I'm all of it and within my own, universal temple, right? And soul database. So what happened is basically I said to her, and this is my advice for anybody in the church that's counseling. We don't just say 5 Hail Marys and call it a day. We don't just say you're going to be saved because Jesus, that's a scapegoating psychology that was planned. Because we're sacrificing children every day, and don't think that they're not beautiful temples of higher consciousness, light, angelic beings. I'm pretty sure Jesus said people can be 10 times Jesus, right? So anyway, what I said was you have to give back the money. You have to start over. Now, I didn't say you have to go to jail because the husband agreed to this. So he agreed to his death. He agreed to that contract. There's no crime in that, but there is still a crime that had to be cleaned with money. And she didn't like that. That's not what she wants to hear, right? And so she disappeared. And so after 16 years in a private practice, I can say from my experience, victims do the work. They really do the work. And predators avoid the bill. I'm not saying that there weren't some predators that started to do the work. They didn't want to face me. Some of these predators had a bill addressed to me. They didn't want to face that. And unfortunately, it's serious consequences because we go into Nashville, Tennessee, slavery, the person who owned me, and then we go to Anastasia and those paperwork. We go into Harriet. We go into Harriet's sisters who owned. These are serious things. And these people still have a very ingrained, shadowy entitlement, misbehavior, even though they think they're doing good for some people. That's not how you clean this up. You have to know your own soul database. Meditation, brain work is key. So I wanted to share because then as I started to become higher conscious, I'm doing what I'm telling you. I did the brain work. I'm drinking a better water. I'm starting to become educated on water and starting to be baffled. Like I spent a few years just obsessed with it, obsessed with the whole corruption of it. It was fascinating to me. And then I had to look at this large population of healer shamans who were preaching things that made no sense. And I had to say, are they traumatized? Were they slave owners in a past life or slaves? That's for them to answer. I came across information about the true healing waters of PA with the assistance of Agent Confusion. That's the character in book 2 series going forward. And this isn't downloads. Here's the book. Where do you find this? Well, it's not that easy. I went to the recreational center for the park, police station. You go in, there's all these pamphlets. And I go up to the desk and I'm like, hello. I was just wondering, I'm really interested in just sort of like the history of this land area. Is there any other documents that have like more facts, more information? And they're like, oh yeah, we just have to go into the back office, into the back drawer where nobody can see and pull out this. Now, if you're not clear enough in your intentions to know how to ask those questions and know where to go, where do you find this? Now, what's interesting about this is the title of the mineral springs is Frankfurt. It's interesting for the state of PA. Why are we labeled something from Germany? And then when you go through and you read and you see the pictures, well, this is my little synopsis of it. I assume that the Germans came over and killed the native Indians, the people who owned this land and lived in this land was sacred to them. These waters did have healing properties and they're documented and they're tested for medical, helping to reverse medical issues. They're listed here. And so one of the doctors took charge of that. Oh, we have healing water now. We'll kill you all. We don't really care about you. We're going to lie about it though. It's like this battle, but it's not really a battle. We're just going to kill you all. We're going to take your healing water. We're going to wash you away. We're going to own this. Does that sound familiar right now? Is anything like that in America going on right now? Because the devil doesn't like two things. It doesn't like water. It drinks something else. What does it drink? And you might say, oh, there's tons of waters on the market. That's for confusion. Da dee da 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 dee dee da dee da. And the devil doesn't like the mother, the divine feminine. That's why she hasn't actually been on a lot of platforms. I'm not saying women aren't on platforms. A lot of times they are choked in what they can say and not say, or they're a shadow masculine who hasn't unraveled enough masks to really be able to make a imprint in changing the frequency, or some of them just don't have the material that's needed for what's needed right now if they haven't experienced a lot of slavery in their bloodline. Because we are dealing with serious issues of healing generational trauma on many levels: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and ancestral. 5 realms. 5 realms that have to be healed through the victim, 5 realms that have to be healed through the predator. And a little bit different blueprints for that. So they build this fancy resort. I have, I think, a picture on Facebook when you go through the post, I believe. And it's pretty large. Everybody from around the world that's rich and elite, we've heard that before. You get to come here, we get to dance, we have jazz, and we have bottled in glass this healing water. It costs money though. And this has started the medical journaling in the government and the corruption of water in America. Some of the characters, one of them is related or not related, knows Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin is aware of this situation. So there's a little bit of karma he has to clean up with water. So if you're watching this video, you're aware. It's like, the people that were sitting in the room with the psychopaths torturing children. They're like, well, I didn't do it. But you're sitting there and you're hearing things and you're not saying anything. Are you in disassociation? Are you just kind of wanting to be a part of the club? Do you want that next gig job? So, that's important because we can't go back to or get to the luscious, radiant Mother Earth without addressing all of the webs. And a lot of times, I think probably people thought I was addicted to healing, or just, why can't, she's got so much trauma. Well, yeah, I do, because I'm an ancient healer that signed up for a very important job. It would take a lot of resilience to deal with the type of psychic attacks and pain levels of swelling, like real physical pain. My body didn't just become anti-age and flexible and bones change overnight. And so this is what I want to leave you with. I think I've addressed everything that I need to address. If you want to become, there's more podcast people, because I changed my material for being a guest. And one of them is a little bit more water. I have to be very politically correct online. We can do a lot of Zoom classes on education and get you in the lanes to educate your audience on clean water with water specialists, and then the medical Japanese device, which in all honesty, like when I think of Jim Brewer's wife, I think we have a lot in common. Um, it's like, you know, a lot of guys are like, well, just tell me which water to drink and I'll drink it. And they love it. And they start to like sleep better, detox, anti-age, and it's all great. But the women actually start to learn the different types of waters and how to use them. You know, for example, you have strep, your child has strep throat, teaspoon of 2.7 electrolytes reduced water, you gargle it, that infection's dead. That's a big deal. A lot of stuff with animal care, you know, our animals are getting over medicated. It's extremely expensive because they're eating grass and soil that's got glyphosate and other poisons in it, and the water's poison. Even, you know, so multi-pure is clean water, and then the Japanese medical device is a more advanced device. It's the real deal, and it takes a little bit. Women have that sort of an intuitive, innate ability where the man's like, hey, like let's set up the kitchen differently. Okay, can we cut out this wall? We're gonna pipe in this thing here, and then we're gonna hook up this under the sink and this on, and that's their thing. And it's like a dual thing. But what's happened, at least on my team, is it's just been a mother thing. And I really want to inspire plumber companies to come on board, and we can have private conversations about how not only this can advance you in other lanes of business, residual, but also customer service, and also not work as many hours like your team. You can have more staff, not work as many hours, but feel good because you're coming in not just as a plumber now, but as a healer. And we could talk about these things. And this is where the three parasite cockroaches were blocking a lot of major systematic opportunities. And now that's going to come back at them. And they'll probably blame me because they blame everybody but themselves because they don't want to do the work and they don't want to really help people. They just want to stand on a stage and feel important. As if nobody on the other side's watching. They have no connection to their mothers, grandmothers. Some of them, I healed their mothers and grandmothers and they're like, done. Like, oh my, you're attacking the wrong person. But that's a psychopath. They've done too, they don't want to take that's a 5-year-old tantrum that doesn't want to take accountability for anything. But we have to protect people like me. We really, Charlie needed protection. And I'm not blaming anyone. It happened when it happened. But we need to support the chosen ones. We need to not isolate them anymore. This isn't how it's supposed to be. We need to come together. Other people wake up. You become chosen when you decide to step into this of awakening, of saying no more to parasitics, predators. It may be uncomfortable to heal some of the stuff. Everybody's capable of being a leader. And when I look in my neighborhood, there are some men that could really be incredible leaders in companies or leaders in the community or even leaders in state politics, but they need the generational brain protocol work. I need to have male teachers because it's not me. I need to teach some things in that. So I send that out. One of the things of Mr. Rogers wants to attract business people in is they'll understand systems and they'll have the way to be able to do those systems to get what our people need and possibly to get franchises that create money for them, but also money and good things for the community, not poisonous environments for the community, right? So healing waters existed and I don't want to let go. I was born in the state of PA for a reason. I may not stay here forever. Me and my divine counterpart, we will make that decision together. But with it said, there is sacred land still here with communication. You know, I find different pockets in the forest and I was sitting on this huge, beautiful rock and I know an ancestor of my past sat on there. What a cool feeling. You don't need to go to a shaman retreat and put all your energy into them and get some energy back. They give you a little tidbit. Why don't you do brain rewiring? Why don't you upgrade your water? Why don't you detox glyphosate and parasites? Why don't you do somatic shaking? And why don't you go into the forest and find your rock and see if you can channel your ancestors and start trusting it instead of over trusting the internet? Human development is the future. People coming to events is the future. You're going to have to pay more because it takes energy to be on stage. It takes energy to do healing. It takes energy to lecturing. And because everything is over internet now, when you go to an event or when you're working live with a person, it is going to cost you more because it's a value. It's a value to have a higher conscious lawyer like the one in Dark Waters. We need them more than ever before. And we need to encourage them to step up. We need to support them in every way, shape, or form. There's a law firm that I followed for a while in Vegas that is doing great lawsuits with the water bottle industry. They've been very successful, but these are big companies. They own everything. One system goes out, they change the label, they put it on something else, and these lawsuits, people are dying and they're not being publicly, broadcasted. And that's for a reason. Just like these movies, they last a day and then nobody hears about them. So when you watch Dark Waters, which I would review that video, ask yourself, who's going to show up at the end of the day and care about this? Why is it only this one person? Why is it only the John Horse or the Harriet Tubman? We cannot move forward with that type of attitude. What would have happened if Harriet didn't run back into danger to grab that little boy that I believe was Charlie Kirk? Now, obviously, if you got nothing to give, you can't help somebody. I always teach, put the mask on first. But I don't think Harriet Tubman had anything to give. I think she was running on pure angelic soul, unconditional love. And that's why when I do receive the finances to take care of myself, and there's a little bit extra, there is something I'm going to do to make sure we never forget who Harriet Tubman and John Horse is. I'm going to finish this video with a reminder that the more we chemicalize the land in America, the more we are losing ourselves. We will not get back the gifts of Mother Earth until we get back the gifts of ourselves. People who profit off of things without integrity, there are serious consequences at this point. We're entering the karmic lane. You cannot outrun your debt. You cannot outrun what you owe. If you are a survivor here, do the work. Do the free playlists, breathwork for leaders, and then breathwork for trauma, stress, emotional pain. Get the water systems. I have a free ebook on heatherannferri.com. At the bottom, it's Water Matters. People who purchase the medical devices, I have another ebook that goes through water protocols with all the specialty waters, what you can do for animals, what you can do for skincare, what you can do for wound care, what you can do for infections, what you can do to clean the house if you don't want chemicals. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But in America specifically, I do not feel consciously right selling that device without multi-pure. You need clean water, not reversed or I'm messing up the word. Not these other waters that are very popular for detoxing viruses. They're not long-term waters. Electrolyzed reduced water. You'll only see older women, talk about this in lectures. Electrolyzed reduced water, electricity, electrical current. Japan's water, these healing properties die within 36 hours. That's why they never bottled them, because they actually have integrity. If you're a healer, stay aligned. Continue to put back into yourself. Continue to have more tools to upgrade yourself. I really believe the new Mother Earth healer in general. I think everybody is a healer. I think every profession can be a healer, but we're not training that. I would love to inspire businessmen that care about that, how we can start those steps. But healers really have to have 10 to 12. Yeah, if they have a lot of sciences and sciences that change things structurally, physically, mentally, emotionally, not just spiritually, because we can spiritual bypass and dissociation all day long. Can't worry about everybody else if you don't know your own database to understand the relationship with everybody else. And leaders, we want to lead with integrity. There's a resort center about an hour away that I've always wanted to do leadership programs for a lot of specific reasons. This might be where to train men with the brain protocols. This might be where to have leadership. If you're somebody that's interested in partnering with me, if you have a mastermind group, let's talk about a program. My dad used to go there and volunteer because they have a golf course. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go. They have a lot of healing tools there that can introduce education. And I'm sure they would welcome me in, especially with even a small group of leaders to initiate some of the brain work and water education. But there's other tools. I'm not going to mention them. Reach out, you matter, 108@gmail.com. Let's have a conversation about what that can entail. And if you're watching this video, if you're a predator, the bill is due. And if you're watching this video and something in your life feels karmically tangled, start with meditation, start with honesty, start with water, start with your own soul. Your own soul. Go within, train the tools. Because the moment you choose integrity, and you will be tested many, many times, I'm sure you have, your entire life begins to shift. I have met some incredible people in my neighborhood. And I think they need more than just me. They need a few team members to see that this is real and that this is tangible. We want them to upgrade into leadership because they're not going to sell their soul. I've listened to some men go, there's no way I would let anybody do this to a child. They're disgusted. They can't even comprehend it. They don't even understand it. They're disgusted by it. We need those men. We need to train them intuitively a little bit more with they have generational traumas, that's for sure. So we need, those people that have integrity, that have walked away, that have work ethic, that wake up every day and do a job, that fix something that you're going to need fixed. These are important skill sets, and we need to honor these jobs again. So I want to leave you with that. Cheap, fake lawyers, fake shamanism, fake water. And I hope this inspires everybody. And I know this is sending a signal out to the one person that's calling a lot of shots right now about fakeism, and that's Candace Owens. For everybody that's come onto my channel today, even those that are maybe the naysayers, maybe those that have come up against me, I send you blessings and hope that you can empower yourself today and look in the mirror and start to take accountability. But for me, I'm going to have a fun day. I've got some great podcast interviews. I'm going to get outside later on today, and I started dancing, playing with the kids. Interact with human beings, man. Human beings rock. Many blessings. Thank you so much.